My name is Casey Davis, and I am the County Extension Agent in Pittsburgh, Camp County over in East Texas. So if you'll remember, we had to reschedule from last week. So this is last week's presentation over rainwater harvesting. This is the final in the series of the WaterWise virtual series. Okay, so if you remember, the last few weeks we have covered literally just the basics, a few things you can do around the home to conserve water. We introduced WaterWise plant selection for ornamental plants, and then very briefly touched on lawn and grass selection. So today we're going to wrap up with rainwater harvesting. So again, our last video 2 weeks ago, we talked about Texas superstar plants and all of the resources available for you to learn more about those kind of plants and how to select what plants are going to be great for your lawn or garden. We took some time to go over lots of pretty pictures of those plants, and if you missed that video, they're still available here on the Facebook page, or if it's easier for you, you can go on to the @Life of an Ag Agent YouTube channel and check out those videos you missed too. Okay, so today we're going to talk rainwater harvesting. We're going to define it, talk about the various ways to harvest rainwater and stormwater runoff. We'll discuss the pros and cons. And now I wouldn't necessarily say these are cons that would prevent you from installing a rainwater harvesting system, but it's definitely factors that you should consider in your management plan and when you get started. Lastly, I'm going to give some brief tips and information for how to help you get started in the process of building your rainwater harvesting system. Okay, so what is it? Rainwater harvesting is simply an alternate water supply and stormwater management approach that really anyone can use. There are a few different types. Primarily, we're going to discuss rain barrels or rain gardens. So rainwater harvesting is really just a supplemental source of water. It can be for your garden or even for livestock and wildlife as well. Now, if you remember, I did use this slide in the introduction presentation. So what is a rain garden? It is an artificial depression in the landscape that collects and stores stormwater runoff that until it can infiltrate the soil. So it helps prevent flooding in some instances. So this is an additional approach to harvesting rainwater. And like I just said, it can prevent flooding, which may cause some erosion. And so that can be something that can help slow down the runoff and allow it to soak into the ground. So note that rain gardens are not ponds. They usually have native vegetation or some other kind of plants that are hardy and do well with little maintenance. They're usually very visually appealing and insect friendly, and again, just a solution to water pollution. All right, so if you also remember, this is a slide that I used in the introductory presentation as well. It's got two pictures here. One on the left is a small to medium scale rainwater harvesting program, and on the right-hand side is upwards of a large scale rainwater harvesting. So there's a great deal of variety in between what might work for you, and you can see just in these two pictures, there's a great deal of variety from how to get started up to that last picture there. So small to medium scale, if you just have one of those 55-gallon barrels, you're probably going to fill that up within one rainstorm, and you will use it probably over one watering between one or just a few days, depending on how many potted plants or what size flower bed or garden you have. Medium to larger scale, that's going to collect more water, obviously, and give you more water to use over more time. So it just depends on what your goal is. Do you just want to have a little extra water to utilize and not have to turn on the water hose as much? Or do you want to approach being self-sufficient and eventually having potable water? So if you remember also, I talked about the prices. So that small to medium scale is going to be $100 or less if you just want to get a couple of these barrels and make them yourself, up to $500 or $1,000 when you get up to medium scale. And then if you're thinking about this large scale, which is going to be installation of permanent equipment, tanks, piping, pumps, purification system, especially if you're going to be drinking this water, you're looking at anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 or more dollars. Okay, moving on to the pros and cons. So rainwater harvesting is superb for plants, as one of our AgriLife Water University specialists stated, and that is because it is essentially salt, chlorine, calcium, and lime free. It also has a lower pH, so it makes for a great supplemental water source for your plants. Now, it also can help attract wildlife if you have a rainwater garden, and it can be an additional drinking source for wildlife and livestock if you're harvesting that rainwater and putting it into some kind of tank or barrel for livestock or wildlife drinking. Now keep in mind, this is not going to be potable water for human consumption. If you are going to go that route, then you're going to need to have special filtration systems to purify that water. Back to rainwater gardens, they are very aesthetically pleasing. And again, it can be a supplemental water source. So do you simply want to reduce your monthly water bill, or do you want to not have a water bill at all? So there's, again, a great deal of variety in what kind of that scale here in rainwater harvesting. So in case of drought, maybe you've thought ahead and collected this rainwater throughout the years, and so then it becomes an extra water source for you to use on your plants in case your homeowners association or your city, county, etc. Puts a restriction on watering in the neighborhood. So you've got some extra water there to help your neighbors out. And again, can be an extra drinking source for livestock and wildlife. Cons. So again, these are not cons that should prevent you from establishing a rainwater harvesting system on your property, but rather these are factors to consider in your management plan or approach. So rainwater harvesting can be costly and time-consuming to start. Really, that's going to be only if you jump to scale 2 or 3 immediately. From that picture a few slides ago, those large water barrels that have, and the piping system and purification systems, yes, that can get very expensive. So that may not be the route you want to go, but it shouldn't prevent you from it, okay? Now, the video we're going to watch at the end here, it's going to show that if you just make a couple of those 55-gallon barrels to put around your gutter systems and collect water runoff from your house, that's not going to be very costly or time-consuming at all. In fact, you may be able to get some of those barrels donated from local companies, if you have any of that kind of industry in your area. So, rules and guidelines. You may see this as a pro, not necessarily a con, but if you are looking to have potable water from this harvesting system, then there are unfortunately no rules or restrictions that you have to follow to make sure that water is pure and safe to drink. And that is because those rules and guidelines are set forth for public potable water use. Now, the TCEQ, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, again, those rules are for potable water for public use, but there are some helpful guidelines and suggestions for private use. So, don't fret. There are some guidelines out there. Just know that, no one's going to be coming out and testing or ensuring that you're following these guidelines or that your system is working properly. So it's where it's left up to you, basically. So again, not necessarily a con, but something for you to think about. So there are different state regulations, and I'm specifically speaking of Texas in this presentation, as always, because I am an agent here in Texas. But there are other states may have different restrictions or may not even allow for rainwater harvesting or collection. So just be sure and do your research. If you're watching this video and you're outside of Texas, just make sure you're following in line with your state rules. Lastly, so the large barrels. This could be a con if you don't have the space to place them, or if those large barrels are unappealing or not aesthetically pleasing to you. So, you've got to have a place to put them, and they're going to be seen unless you have a shop or a barn that you can put them behind. So that's really a personal issue there, unless you also have a homeowner association guidelines, and if they have any restrictions that says the barrels are unsightly, or perhaps your husband or wife or neighbor says those barrels are unsightly. So again, could be a con, but really just something for you to assess, maybe double check with your neighbors or your homeowner association. Okay, so rainwater harvesting, how to get started. I really suggest that you start small. There are lots of resources out here, which I'm going to go over with you, but Water University, which is part of Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, they're out of our Dallas district office. They do have lots of resources and a video for how to make a rain barrel. Like I said, we're going to watch that shortly. Then use the resources you already have. So along with starting small and making those rain barrels, put them at the end of your gutters. Let that water run from those gutters into that barrel. Now, if you don't have gutters, not necessarily a problem. This is something I just learned today here in my research, a rain chain. It's a decorative element that can hang from the edge of a roof to help direct that rainwater into the barrel. So I thought that was interesting. So lots of things out there for you to learn about and gradually work your way up to scale 2 and 3 if you're interested in becoming self-sufficient. Okay, so I'm going to go through these resources here. In just a minute, we're going to go into a web browser and pull up each of these so you can see kind of how to get to all of them. So we've got Agrolife Today. That is really a media resource. Think of it as like a news publication, newspaper magazine for extension professionals as an outlet for us to get to you. Then you've got the Water University at the Dallas Center. You've got our regular Texas A&M AgriLife Extension website and YouTube channel. As a part of the Extension website, Rainwater Harvesting has their own website. And then lastly, the AgriLife bookstore, where you can go and purchase print publications or electronic publications. So these resources are amazing, and I simply just don't want to reinvent the wheel. So that's why I'm taking the time to kind of introduce you to them and help you find them so that you can go through the resources at your leisure. Okay, I'll go ahead and end the slideshow presentation. Y'all have seen I've liked to put in some pictures here to know a little bit about me, some of my past and current animals. So take time to smell the roses and just enjoy life outside. I mean, I've learned so much just in putting these videos together about the plants in our ecosystem here, and just take time to enjoy that. Okay, so I'm going to go on over to the internet browser now, and the first one we're going to talk about, that AgriLife Today publication, Rainwater Harvesting Tips for Beginners. We're going to go ahead and play this video for y'all. Okay. I'm trying to get situated here. All right, so I love how they show that Aggie ingenuity there using that duct tape. That is great. Okay, so moving on to another resource, the wateruniversity.tmu.edu. They've got a great website here, and it's got all of their resources right here in tabs for you to click on and check out. They've got their events, lots of virtual stuff going on right now. And again, the in-person classes where you build your own rain barrel, that was pre-COVID. I'm sure they'll eventually have that again. But as for right now, you know, they've got these virtual events going on. They've also got all of their videos and archived programs that have been done in the past. You can search their plant database, some of what we talked about last time, and more of the how-to videos like that one we just watched. So great resource here, and that's wateruniversity.tmu.edu. Of course, you've got YouTube. This is another video of constructing a rain barrel, and it's shown in real time, so it's about almost 15 minutes long. It's not sped up like that previous one, so you might check this one out. It may show some additional details or you know, information that might be helpful to you. So again, YouTube is a resource. Just always make sure that it is a reliable page. This one is Texas Rainwater Harvesting. Of course, you've got my extension at Life of an Ag Agent page. So that's always key in any research you do. Just make sure their credentials. Okay. All right. So AgriLife Extension has their own rainwater harvesting outlet as well. You can look at in-home use and click to read more on rain gardens, more on wildlife, and how rainwater harvesting can help wildlife as well. And again, something you can click on and read more about each of those. So again, that was rainwaterharvesting.tamu.edu. Lastly, I'm going to go to our AgriLife bookstore, where you can purchase various different print and electronic publications. Most of the electronic publications are going to be free and an instant download, which is what this one is here. And so I'm just going to thumb through that one real quick and show you what it looks like. So stormwater management rain gardens, and it's got various very detailed information in this. So this might be a publication for a local city park or chamber of commerce, something in city management where they've got specific guidelines or sizes of, you know, spaces that they need to follow. So it's got a diagram, how to build, what to put in there, how to select a site, how to calculate runoff. Yeah, I mean, that's super detailed and great that we have that as a resource. So lots of information in this publication. And again, this one is Stormwater Management Rain Gardens. So at this time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we are pretty much done for the program. I just want to say, if any of y'all have any recommendations, comments, suggestions, questions, anything at all, please reach out to me. You can comment on this post on Facebook, and you shoot me a message or give me a call here at the office. And that phone number is posted on our page as well. But I'd love to get feedback from you. If this is something we'd like to keep doing, if you'd like to get more videos from me on any particular subject, or maybe just landscape and gardening, anything at all, please do let me know. Like I said, I rely on y'all to tell me what you like or don't like. So hope y'all have a great day.